Winning in enterprise sales is the epitome of success for many sales professionals. Let's track that career path on this episode of Closing Time. Thanks for tuning into Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Val Riley, VP of Marketing at Unbounce and Insightly. Today, I'm joined by Craig Surgey. He is head of sales at Comtrade 360 and co-host of the Struggle Bubble podcast. Craig, welcome to the show.
Hi, Val. Great to be here.
Okay, so you already win the prize for the most memorable headset of any Closing Time guest. Good job. But let's get down to business and the business of enterprise sales. Why do a lot of sales professionals see success in the enterprise as the pinnacle of a sales career?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think a lot of it comes down to career goals, right? And mixed with the career goals is that race to the finish line, or that constant race to the finish line, I should say, where most people start as a BDR, SDR inside sales, and there's a path chosen in the sales industry to get to that point. And when you start hitting that enterprise ground and you start talking about the clients, the numbers, and kind of the strategic structure that not just impacts the sales process, but also the business outcome, I think that's part of the reason people really strive to get into that role in the sales industry.
Yeah, you mentioned that BDR, SDR role, and I would venture to say today, that's probably where about 90% of new salespeople are starting from.
Yeah.
What can a new sales professional take away from that role to use to build towards an enterprise sales career?
Yeah, well, I'd actually say that role, and I advise this all the time, is a life role. It's not just in the sales world. Being able to, it's a difficult skill set and sometimes unnatural for people to pick up the phone to someone they do not know, try and find some medium ground that they can start discussing, be that family, friends, etc. Build that relationship. And, from personal experience, those relationships came from nobody wants to talk to me 10, 15, 20 times to breaking into that account. And those people now are friends, right? I can call them about advice, etc. So it's a great learning model from, again, a kind of holistic approach to life of trying to meet somebody new. And if you think about it, we do this at school when we're kids. Teachers help us introduce to new people, new students, etc. It's the same process as we get in that sales world, right? So start that SDR block of the real learning curve of the sales process of you are going to get 15 no's before you get one yes, and then cultivating and using that going forward.
So enterprise sales and LinkedIn really go hand in hand today. Can you talk about how you started using LinkedIn early on in your career and then how you continue to use it today?
Yeah, great question, Val. You have your CRM or Insightly, and you are using all these different tool sets. And maybe 10 years ago was a primary point of LinkedIn there, where you could see people, number one, this started to become a resume builder. It started to be a real professional social media aspect to the game. So when you're in the kind of BDR role or SDR role, it was great to see, hey, this person's been at this company, this company, this company. And now we can start mapping it of, okay, this is their industry, this is their people, this is how to connect. And what I did was I used that and I started to use inbounds and also LinkedIn requests of, hey, this may be interesting to you and I want to connect with you. But it goes back to that original question of when we're at school, you meet new people. Well, LinkedIn was that across the globe. I can go in and my background in sports was able for me to go in and say, hey, I see you coach soccer at blah, 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 blah. But you're also in the tech industry. We have a natural connection now. And then from that point, we can then move forward with it. The next part with LinkedIn, and I think it's evolved after, the acquisition was made, was being able to use video. I thought that was genius by LinkedIn of me now being able to pitch myself, the company I represent, the products we're selling into, the global footprint basically, and start basically being my own kind of lead gen. It's a side of marketing that I can do personally, my own brand, again, pitch who I'm working with, but I can get the voice out there. So now you have marketing and sales, you have marketing personal, and you have sales personal all bundled into one entity. It's fantastic. Now it's a little social media for me. It's not as much business, but again, it's a great way to see prospects, develop relationships, and then grow your own brand and the company you represent.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that today's folks starting out in sales will have a whole career in LinkedIn? It's not going to be a new thing for them. It's just going to be natively how they begin a sales career.
Oh, absolutely. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm a heavy sales channel partnership business guy. And so it was always going out to, meetings and then doing the happy hours and it was building your Rolodex up basically with your own phone book, right? And getting to now it's, again, you've got this global presence that you can tap into to then grow. And these it's tough though. Don't get me wrong. The new guys coming through, it's not, I would say LinkedIn is now ignored a little bit more than it used to be. So you've got to do a bit more around, I would say you got to be a bit more direct in what you're trying to preach. And then I think those 12 touch points to try and break into an account has now led to probably 24 because you've got to be, the squeaky wheel to get somewhere.
Yeah, I think like all technologies, eventually the pendulum swings. And so we'll have to figure out what the next new thing is. You mentioned channel sales as a key part of your sales career. Can you talk a little bit about that? And how does one step into a channel role? How does channel help you really build up to the next step?
Oh, again, Val, great question. And I love talking about this one as well as LinkedIn. For me, channel is your second arm of marketing. And second arm of sales. When I'm not in the room, there's people representing me and what I can provide for that client without me being there. And with that comes mass opportunities. I look at it in three buckets. There's clients I want to try and break into that I have no relationships with. That's where I can use the channel. There's me not being in the room when they're doing an open, this is who we partner with. I'm not in the room. They're doing the selling for me. And then there's the actual one-on-one relationships. They know me. They know what I sell. They know what we do. They're going to call Craig immediately when they hear certain keywords that relate to either myself or the product. So the channel for me is fantastic. And one of my biggest advice to people is learn the channel as fast as possible. Your disties, your partners, who to work with, what their skill sets are. Biggest thing is what they're missing. And does your product fit one of those lines that you can then help grow their business, which obviously then internally builds your own brand and business. So for me to get in there, so sit with your CAMs, sit with the regional managers, start working out a plan of how to sponsor a happy hour, how to sponsor a golf event, all these different variations to get your face into the industry. Then from there, accelerate, again, who you align with, what makes sense.
Yeah, and that leads into my next question because, the holy grail of any sales career is referrals, right? If you're getting referrals, you're treating people well and they're coming back to you or they're sending folks to you. Is that especially true in enterprise sales? And what can sellers be doing every day to cultivate those referrals?
100%, 100%. Those referrals go further than any cold email, I actually put referral based into Executive Connect. So when you do an Exec Connect, it's all referral based. Who can I trust? Why can I trust? Etc. And those referrals to keep them close to home is massive. Number one, you don't know where somebody's going to go and work next. So that tracing that and following that and having that friendship is ginormous. Referral again of the products that you represent and the person you are. But the biggest point for me on the referral side of this is how does that all come together? Because again, when I'm not in the room, who is speaking on my behalf and who's got my back in these certain scenarios? And that referral base will just go, it's that six degrees of separation that is just going to keep passing forwards and forwards and forwards onto you. How to cultivate and keep them? Multiple ways. I'm a huge believer on, as those referrals come in, whoever gave me that referral, I make sure we go for a steak dinner, right? We're looking after them financially. We're looking after them going out, whatever that is. Also from a business standpoint, what can I do now to help them? Can I introduce them to the next person? Can I introduce them to somebody that I know, either help them in their career path or whatever project they're on today? How can I do that? And then the third, I love doing this once a quarter get-togethers. I try and do a happy hour once a month somewhere with a reseller, a distie, and potentially clients. And then once a quarter, I try and get everybody together in the same room. And it's non-business talk. It is, you can talk about what you've done in your career, but it's a get-together of kind of, I call it meetings of the minds. Get everybody in the room, and it's a social event of everybody now expanding your Rolodex with each other.
That's a really great tip. You know, we all love the convenience of remote meetings, and we all love being able to hop on a call with anyone, anywhere in the world at any time. But truthfully, those relationships are formed in person. And so if you can cultivate that by having even quarterly, like you mentioned, it's not terribly frequent, but it really does make a difference when it comes to getting referrals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who is a mentor, and when he took a certain role, he said he called everybody in the same role because it was a fairly new title, and they all got round the table and they went, "Does anybody know what we do?" Because the egos that we all have, right, in this world of like, we do it this way and this is how we crush it and blah, blah, blah. When everybody kind of took that hat off and they all sat around a dinner table again with, this is personal, this is not business. You can talk about what you've done in your career, but not what we're doing today. And everyone goes, I'm so glad you asked that question. Because we're all, and it goes back to kind of the struggle bubble, right? Everybody's trying to do the right thing at the right time. And sometimes when you just take a step back and everyone goes, hey, hats off, do you do it this way or should we? I think that was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had from a mentor.
So kind of we're talking about career progression for sellers. And what do you think motivates a seller to leave their bag behind and jump into a sales leadership role?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a few things, and I think there's an inflection point in that as well. It depends what they did last year. It depends if they're a W-2 or 1099 and what that number looked like. So part of that, but then also I think generally with most AEs and SEs, when there's been a successful sale, you'll hear them say, "Hey, I appreciate the thank yous, and we did a great job, but it's not just me; it's a team, right? I can't code. I'm not an engineer. I don't run marketing. If you really then dissect a sale of where the lead came from, it came from X marketing or an inside sales, whatever that is. The product was built by someone. There's a customer support. So I think that inflection point a lot of the time comes where then the top comes down, management C-level goes, okay, it seems like, we're cultivating a great, environment here. We're cultivating a great sales leadership team. We want you to work with now that sales group and build that team up as a leadership model. So I think I always relate this to coaching, right? Again, successful sale means there's a team around it. Successful sales group means there's a leader that has that coaching aspect and ability of bringing everybody else around them up. And then also there's an interpersonal point of where does everybody wants to go in their career, right? Do you want to be a sales leader? Do you want to just carry a bag? Do you want to be a CRO at some point? So I think there's a lot of coaching inside of there as well that makes people really question, do I want to keep carrying this bag and doing these, having a list of sales or 15 clients, whatever that is, or do I want to bring my team together and grow the whole business, not just from the sales wise, but obviously sales leads to a larger business in general, and then bring the whole company up and keep the growth going. So I really think that inflection point hits when you've been in for a few years or 10 plus years, honestly, and you realize, hey, I want to help others around me as much as the team that makes the sale that I'm doing today.
I think you make a good point because, right, it's lone wolf versus pack leader. And like you said, maybe it's what's going on in your life outside of work that helps make that decision for you.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Again, kind of talking to the struggle bubble, you get to a point of, if you go through marriage and kids and stuff like that, do I want to be on the road, 35 weeks of the year, or do I need a little bit more time at home? Yeah. The external aspects definitely kick in at the same time. Yeah.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for sharing your insights and a little bit about your career path.
Yeah, absolutely, Val. I again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I love listening.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all of you for tuning into Closing Time. Remember, you want to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss an episode, and we'll catch you next week.